Welcome. This is the Commercial Mastery Series. I'm Kevin Derrick, and this is a module specifically targeted to a very awesome tool and resource. I use it. All of my students start out using it, and it's available for you to use as a commercial mastery student and as a mentorship student that I work with. It's called the Spotter. It's the System Performance and Operations Tracking Report. Don't worry about that long name. Just think Spotter. Kevin, why Spotter? Because it helps me spot a good deal. You know, several years ago, I was working with different software programs. They're all really good. All of them do a little bit different things. You know, they're all a little bit unique with different tweaks. But it took me so long, and I'm good in math, it took me so long to enter all of the data. It just seemed very sluggish, and it was just a poor use of my time. I like to be efficient. I like to get things done, and I want the things that I want when I want them, right? I'm sure that you're the same way. And so I started to build a tool that ended up being the Spotter. And it's just an awesome resource to help us get information quickly, accurately, and it's the information that we need. So the Spotter is a tool in Excel that I created that asks us to do 6 things, and that's it. All you do is enter 6 pieces of information, and it will give us our operating data. Now, by now, you're familiar with the cash flow model. You get the gross income and the vacancy, operating expenses, you know NOI, and so you're getting all of those things. Now, what we're going to do is speed up the process. So, let's say that we have a property with this information in it. If you notice on the Spotter, there are 6 blanks on here, 6 spaces that are shaded. They're numbered 1 to 6. And so all you do is enter the information on here in your spreadsheet. It's easy. You can just tab to each one. You can't enter data anywhere else. Again, for you Excel experts, you can take this and roll with it. I give you all of the passwords. For those of you that would be a little leery of an Excel spreadsheet, it is totally super friendly, easy. It's a piece of cake, and it will help you immensely and speed up when you're looking at a potential opportunity. So it asks us 6 things. Let's go through them now. Number 1, it asks us for the asking price. Okay, so that's $729,000. All I'm doing is just entering that data. You can watch me do it right now. Once I enter the $729,000, the asking price, I hit my tab button. Or you can take your mouse and put the cursor on that cell. Remember, you can't enter data anywhere else. It's all protected, but it's only going to take us 30 seconds. In this case, let's say that there are 20 units and that the average rent per month is $600. This is all I have to do. I check my vacancy rate. Right now I'm using 8%. My other income is monthly. All right, say, well, Kevin, I thought everything was annual. It is, just a little bit easier for us to break it down monthly, just so that it's easier for the user. And so we put 100 in there. If you have the annual, just divide by 12. And then we put in our operating expense ratio. And that's all that we do. All right, we enter the 6 data elements right there on the front page. I call it the Spotter entry page. And then we hit the tab called Main Spotter Dashboard. When you see this tool and you're using it, you'll see that there are actually 3 tabs on the bottom that you can click on. We just dealt with tab number 1, which is the tab where we enter the 6 pieces of criteria. That's it. Then all you have to do is click on tab number 2. Tab number 2 is what we call the Main Spotter Dashboard. All right, this is when it gets really good, folks. With the 6 pieces of criteria that I entered, and you can see them on top, what we do is we segment this sheet into 3 very easy sections. Let me show you. The first section is above this line here, the blue line, And that's all the basic criteria. So we entered the price, the number of units, average rent per month. Basically, the dashboard is just capturing that data, and then it's moving the data where it needs to go to give you a very quick analysis to see if you've spotted a good deal. You've got the vacancy rate, other monthly income, and our op expense ratio. Already we know, okay, that the list price cap rate is 10.27%. You say, well, Kevin, where did that come from? It's the spotter, okay? The offer price, $712,960. Say, well, Kevin, are you telling me that the spotter tells me how much I should offer? Sure, because I'm putting in my criteria, all right, and it will tell me kind of where I should be. Now, if you notice in the middle section, we have a left side and a right side, all right? And I'm just going to scroll up here a little bit so you can see this. Now, the left side is our cash flow analysis. It's exactly like what we've been working on in our modules. By now, you should be pretty comfortable with it. At least you've worked with it enough so that you understand the terms and what the numbers are and why they're important, all right? What this does for us is it does all of our calculations automatically. So in the other modules, yeah, I was making you do everything, even with a calculator, you're still writing everything down. I'm sure that you were wondering, well, why isn't he just using a spreadsheet? Use the spotter. Okay, it took us 30 seconds or less to enter the data. Sometimes it takes 10 seconds, and it spits out all of this information automatically. It gives me my NOI, 74,860. So the left side is my cash flow analysis. Now, let me show you this. On the right side, okay, on the right side, I have a capitalization overview. So based on the NOI and the asking price, the right side is telling me what the property is valued at the different cap rates. So I know just from looking at it that at a 5 cap, based on this NOI, the property should be worth about 1.5. At a 12 cap, it's worth about $623,000. Now that's an enormous range, and it was just so helpful for me to be able to see the different ratios in how the capitalization worked. Remember, it's all derived from the NOI, okay? So your first section on the main dashboard basically takes into effect all of the criteria that you have, and it gives you an instant analysis. The second, the middle section, is really the meat of it, because it gives you the immediate cash flow analysis and a capitalization overview, but it still gets even better than that, okay? Now, as I scroll down, you see that we have right here a more than a cash flow analysis. This is the debt that we place against it, the basic terms of the deal, and how it might look based on certain levels of debt and loan to value. Is that cool? Because that's always what I wanted to know. I mean, you know, I can take the average rent per month, and you know, you and I can pretty much just in our head, we can crank out some numbers pretty quick and at least have a ballpark of where our NOI is going to be. But remember, the net operating income only gives us the derived income from the asset without any debt on it. And so the next step is to think, okay, well, what would it look like if I placed debt against it, and what would it look like if I had some private equity as well? This is just so helpful for me, and it all generates immediately once you enter the 6 pieces of information. So here, if you notice, at an offer price of $712,960, which is a 10.5 cap, all right, at a 70% loan to value, I'm going to go slow here, and just so you know, we've got, here's where my cursor is, right here, okay? So at an offer price of $712,000, if I found a lender, okay, that would loan 70%, then the note would be basically $500,000. That would mean that I would have $213,000 left, okay, the 30% down. Now, it calculates automatically the debt service, and there are just a few things that we enter in there when we first get started, like what a typical interest rate would be, that type of thing. It's very easy. You can change it whenever you want. It's absolutely awesome. okay? And this tells us not only our down payment, but our debt service. And remember, that's principal and interest, and that's right here. And then there's something that I add in here called cost of leverage. Let's say that I don't want to bring any money out of my company, and I just want to assume that I'm going to put full leverage on this. What would that look like? I've got it right here. So once this generates, the cost of the leverage is right here, and it gives me my total debt. All right? So if I wanted to get into this property with full leverage, it tells me my total debt and my cash flow immediately right there. It also gives me my debt service coverage ratio. So at a 1.7, I know, boy, that's a good deal. I've got plenty of spread, and it's something that a lender wants to look at. It also gives me price per unit. Okay, based on number of units and kind of where we are with the offer price, it just breaks that down immediately. Also, right here on the main dashboard, we have 80% LTV, 75% LTV, and I have your yields. I have all of your yields right here based on your cash on cash return. Okay, so if you actually put cash into the deal, that's what the deal would look like. Of course, if we're doing full leverage, we can't even calculate the cash on cash. Then, if you notice the additional inputs right down here, just so easy. I put in my desired cap rate. Some of you might have wondered, okay, how did it tell me how much to offer? Well, you know what? I'm telling it how much to offer. I'm telling this spotter, okay, I want you to spot a good deal for me at a 10.5 cap and tell me what my offer price should be. And this is called cap rate spreads. Cap rate spreads. You remember the 3 ways that we make cash flow in real estate? You remember? We make money when we buy or at acquisition, we make money during operations, and we make money at disposition when we're done running the play, right? Well, when we talk about that final end play, that end strategy of selling the asset and benefiting from the capital that's left over to go into our pocket, run into the bank there to cash the check, this cap rate spreadsheet gives you an instant analysis. There's nothing else to enter, but it allows us to see what the property would generate based on where we are on entry and exit. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say for a moment that we purchase this property at an 11 cap, which would mean that we would buy the property for $680,000. I have students all the time ask me, I just have absolutely no idea what I could really make on this. How do I start figuring that out? Go to the cap rate spread tab, all right? It's not all inclusive, I get that, okay? I'm not giving you 20-year analytics. What we're trying to do is spot a good deal so we know how to get into due diligence so we can do the rest of the work, but we want to do it quickly. So, if I buy it at an 11 cap, what happens if I sold it at a 10 cap? Well, if I buy on the top and I sell on the bottom my 10 cap is worth $817,000. So if I buy it for $680 and I sell it for $817, I've got some profit in there. Now, we realize there are capital gains, there are taxes, depreciation, we get that. I'm not giving you the ultimate EBIT figure or EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. We all know that, okay? These are just basic ground rules to give us an idea of what that return might be. But I make it really easy because I give you the difference. So all you have to do if you buy it at an 11 cap is scroll right down here in that same column and find where it matches the 10 cap right here. So if I buy at an 11, and I sell at a 10, I have made $136,000, all right, from the sale of that asset. Now, what happens if I get a screaming deal? What happens if I bought at an 11, but I sell at a 9? Well, now my margin is $227,340. Say, Kevin, I live in an area like you do where the cap rate's basically around 7 or 8. Well, let's see, if I bought it for $680,000 and sold it for a 7, my profit, my margin now is close to $500,000. Okay? You know what I know at that point? I know I have spotted a good deal. Let me scroll up and show you one last opportunity here, and that is our projected property numbers. Okay? What happens if in the course of our strategy we wanted to sell the property in 3 years, and to make sure that not only were we getting margin in the cap rate spread, we also want to increase our net operating income? Because anytime I increase my income and I decrease my expenses, man, I am going to town. I am now making a lot more money. I'm not only making more money in operations, but now the property is worth more and I will make more money at the end, okay? So my potential increase in rent per unit, $10. My projected vacancy rate, I'm going to operate the building much more efficiently, so I'm going to move that down a little bit from 8 to 5%. My projected other income, just boosting that up a little bit. Maybe not a lot of opportunity to do more, but maybe just put one more laundry unit in there and throw some flyers around the 20 units and encouraging people to come over, so I increase my income there. I am going to manage the property a little bit more effectively. I've got a nice 3-year plan. I've written out the plan for my property management people. We're going to meet every 2 weeks initially for the first 6 months just to see how we're doing with utilities and CAM charges, common area maintenance, and those types of things. And then my terminal cap rate, what I want to do is I want to sell it at a 7.75. Now, in my market, the typical going cap rate is 7. So as you can see, I'm not really telling everybody that I want to squeeze them. I'm willing to take this property and sell it at a cap rate a little bit higher than the going market cap rate. Sounds pretty smart, doesn't it? Now, when you enter this information, if you want to do that, you go back to the main Spotter dashboard. Remember where we saw the actual numbers right here? Well, on the right side of this spreadsheet, there is a projected. So actual on the left side, and then on the right side, a projected. What this means is this is where the property could go once we run the play. So you see we've adjusted the average rent per unit. It just happens automatically. The new average rent is $610. Remember, we increased it by $10. We've decreased our vacancy. We've edged up the other income, and we've brought down our operating expense ratio. And then I've told the spotter, look, I want to buy at a 10.5, but I want to sell at a 7.75. It then runs a new cash flow analysis of where the property will be. Now let me show you this, okay? Watch carefully. Now, our NOI, when we first started operating the property, was $74,000. All right, it's all about the NOI. Now, once we've just made those little tweaks, okay, we haven't done anything dramatic, nothing extraordinary. Now, we've moved the NOI up from $74,000 to almost $82,000, all right? Now, what does that do to the capitalization? What does that do to the valuation? Let me show you. Okay. When we scroll down, all right, our new value of the property is now $1 million. So, okay, hold on, Kevin. Are you telling me that using a cap rate of 7 3/4, okay, the market cap is 7, so if a lender allowed us to use 7.75, that just by tweaking the NOI up that much, I'm able to get a value of $1 million? That's the power of commercial real estate. The NOI changes, okay, and we end up with an opportunity to really profit immensely. If you notice now, with this greater NOI, we have really padded our pocket with cash flow. Now our cash flow has moved up to $39,000, It was at 15,000. So by making those tweaks and by running the play, I've effected my cash flow to move from 15,000 to 39,000. Have we spotted a good deal? Watch this. Okay? Now, I'm going to scroll back in just a minute. The value at the purchase, the spotter tells me, was $712. Remember, the spotter said, okay, you told me what you wanted to buy it at. Based on how the property's working, you need to buy it at this. Now, the spotter's telling me, if you run your play and you do what you tell me you're going to do, now your value is actually $1 million, and you have a value spread of $340,000. Folks, this is understanding commercial analytics. Great, Kevin. What can I do with that? Well, what happens if we went to a bank? I go to the lender and I say, look, I'm using a cap rate of 7 3/4. My new value is $1 million. They say, great, we'll give you an 80% refi. Now, I have different loan to value refis there, but just for the sample, we're using 80%. The 80% refi, and I'm right over here now on the right side. Okay, I'll put my cursor here. Okay, right here. The 80% refi is $843,000. All right. Now, my original note, remember, the spotter told me what my debt would be and what my loan would be. My original note was $500,000. All right. Remember, I put nothing into this deal. I brought on all of the money. I leveraged it fully. So I've got to pay all of those people back. I've been paying them interest-only payments. Now I got to pay them all their capital back. So I do that in private equity, right where the cursor is. Okay. So basically, this is what it's worth. This is the bank refi note, okay? Now I pay this off, I pay this off. My total payoff is $712,000, okay? The bank's willing to give me $843,000. So my potential cash at closing would be six figures, $130,000. You've heard of cash at closing? Folks, this is how it works. Now, sometimes when you refi, you manipulate your cash flow, so you have to be careful. You have to weigh it out. You know, cash on cash return always has to be weighted by the actual cash flows coming in. You remember our T-bar and how it's the timing of what goes out, the timing of what comes in, how much goes out, how much comes in, right? So what we do is we look at our debt service on our new note. And the debt service on the new note still needs to allow us to have cash flows for the asset. So if you notice, as I move the cursor down, the debt service on the refi, $71,000. My new NOI is $81,000. So I'm still, even after pulling out $130,000 so that I can go buy another building and have greater cash flow because I'm moving capital in there and having less full leverage debt against it, I'm still making money. I pull out $130,000 tax-free on the refi, and I'm making over $10,000. Now, this is what the spotter can do for you. This tells us from what we've seen here that this is a property that we've spotted and we need to get going. We need to make an offer. We need to get more information. We need to get into contract and get into due diligence. We need to make some money. So this is the spotter. Hope this is as good for you as it has been for many of my students. Listen, I still use it every single day. All right? Run to the website, catch the other information that I have on there about the spotter and all of the other commercial products. And listen, we can be out working with you for 3 days, getting in a conference room, getting in commercial property, talking to brokers, talking to lenders, talking to agents, getting you this 20-unit property and spotting a good deal. Learn more about it on the website, and I'll see you in the next module.